Hi guys, it's Jana
and Abby
from Untitled. Today we are going to do an intro to pointe shoes. Yay!
Pointe shoes!
Yay! We had a subscriber from Italy. We are reaching Italy now, guys.
Yay!
Hi Italy. Yes, hello. I think her name is Ambra. I'm not sure how to say it, but she wants to know some advice for getting into pointe shoes. So,
as someone who is new to pointe, a beginner in pointe shoes.
So we're gonna do a little breakdown of the shoes and some kind of basic general ideas of fit.
Not the definitive guide to pointe shoe fitting. For one thing, you can get certified in fitting pointe shoes. Neither of us are certified in fitting pointe shoes. I would love to be one day, but we're not yet. So this is really just some things that we thought of from our own personal experience, for you to keep in mind when you go to get pointe shoes fit.
Okay, so the first thing we want to talk about is the parts of the shoe. In case you're not aware, there are names for each section of the shoe, and those all go into how it fits your foot. I guess we'll start at the top, which is the box, or not the box, this is the platform. I'm sorry, I'm already screwing up. Yeah, this is the platform, which obviously was what you stand on.
Hence platform.
Hence platform,
It's your
yes.
platform.
And then the next thing we have is the box, which is actually this hard part.
Yeah, this whole thing is the box.
And then we have the Vamp, which is going to be the length of the box. And then your Shank, which is the back of the shoe. So those are the parts we're going to be discussing today. We're going to break this down into the fit of each part of the shoe.
Yeah.
First up,
we will start with the box, which is, one of the most important parts because your metatarsal is a huge part of your fit. Now, number one, you do not want a box that is too wide. And a big complaint among teachers is that sometimes they feel like people fitting pointe shoes fit people in too wide of a box. This is a good reason why you might try to take your teacher with you to a fitting, if you can. Not always possible. You also want to make sure that your box is wide enough that when you are in demi-pointe in the pointe shoe, that you're not feeling a pinch through the metatarsal. It should hug, not pinch. Also, when you are flat, when you're standing flat in the shoe, you don't want them to crunch and you don't want your toes to overlap, which would also be part of having too narrow of a box.
this is a super tapered box. So you can probably see side by side how this one's more square and this one tapers in.
And whether you want a more square box or a more tapered box is, again, it's going to depend a lot on your toes and the shape of your foot. I have a very boxy foot, so I've always worked better with a more square shoe. But that's not true for everyone. I wish I could wear more tapered shoes because I think they're really pretty. I think the line is more flattering. But, ultimately we're trying to make our shoes do what we want.
That's right. All right, now the Vamp. Like we said at the beginning, the Vamp is going to be the length of the box here. So generally, if you have a less flexible ankle, then you'll want a shorter Vamp.
That will help you go over the shoe.
Yeah. And also, generally, if you have shorter toes, you usually want a shorter Vamp. Longer toes, need a longer Vamp. I think just to keep everything held in there better. I have super long toes, so I have to get really long Vamps.
I tend to work better with a somewhat shorter Vamp. I don't like them super high.
Yeah.
And I do have a little bit less flexible ankle too, so I like to have a little bit shorter Vamp to help me get over my shoe. But again, it's just never like a hard and fast rule. Always is going to depend on your unique foot. All right, so our next part of the shoe is the shank. Next to the box, this is one of the next parts of the most important part of the shoe in terms of fit. It's a little bit different because it's not purely just about how your foot fits in the shoe, but if you are going on pointe for the first time, and so if you feel like your feet need to gain strength, you're not as strong yet, then you're probably going to want a shank that is a little bit more flexible, a little softer. If you have really, there might be people who are going on pointe for the first time, but they still have an extremely strong foot. And if you have a really strong foot or a really flexible arch, if you have a very high arch, then you might need a very strong shoe, very strong shank. I talked about one of my last videos that I tend to get a strong shank, which is like an extra hard shank, because I like it to be able to wear the shoe longer. But again, if you're newer to pointe, then I would be less concerned with how much wear you're going to get out of the shoe, because right now you need to make sure that you're learning to be on pointe correctly.
Build the strength in your foot to
Yeah.
keep yourself there, not rely on the shoe to do it for you.
That's right. Another thing, which is again, kind of my own personal opinion, they make 3/4 shank shoes. And in the past,
This is a really old, gross one, but this is an example.
and can you show it that one? Oh, okay. So that's, yeah.
It actually has it. It's like made like that, yeah.
Because some of them are still a full shank like this, but
Right.
they're just made so that they break a little bit at the 3/4 mark. And I would say that if you are newer to pointe, if you're a beginner pointe, beginning to dance on pointe, not to get 3/4 shank, because I would just like a full shank. People's feet break at different places. Like when I shanked my shoes, I would do like a half shank. So I really think that as a beginner, you just need to allow your foot to develop with a full shank and then see where your arch is. And so don't start out with a shoe that's doing it for you. But once again, it's not a hard and fast rule. So it's really, somebody might look at your foot and go, I think this is just really going to work for you. And don't go, well, those crazy Utah new people said not to, so I can't do that. That's just kind of something to keep in mind, I think. I would stay away from 3/4 shanks at first.
Okay, that brings us to the platform, which is the section that you're actually on your toes. So these obviously are going to be different widths and narrowness. Like this shoe versus this one, that might be a pretty good example of a wide one versus a really small one.
Yeah.
This was such a pretty shoe, isn't it pretty? I like it a lot. This is an example of like a shoe that I got and it did not fit me properly, and I wore it to class and it was impossible to do anything, and I was so frustrated. So I ended up, I didn't get fit properly at the store, and they shouldn't have let me leave with the shoe, but they did. So that happens. So when you're over it, you want to make sure that you feel like you're over your first 3 toes. You don't want to go back this way or this way. You want to be flat over that because it's just safer that way.
And it's just correct.
It's correct, yes. Safe and correct. That's what we're going for.
Yes.
So yeah, but they, depending on obviously everything else with the shoe, your taperedness, the wideness, all of that can factor in how big or small this might end up being.
And and sometimes it's just personal preference. Certain types of boxes I feel like, allow me to balance and just do what I'm trying to do in my shoe, and certain ones don't. And it's not always just a wide versus narrow. It just kind of depends when you go up on pointe, like, are you up on the box? And do you feel secure on it? So Again, that's one thing about point shoes is our feet are just all so different, and what works for one person isn't going to work for another person. I can be sitting here going, well, I love my square box and my wide platform, and somebody else is going to be much more comfortable in a tapered box that has a narrower platform. Somebody's going to want a strong shank. Somebody is going to be happier with a little bit softer shank. A 3/4 or a half shank or a full shank. It really is just going to depend on your foot. And that's why, going to someone who is certified in fitting point shoes, talking to your teacher, you've kind of got to get a team of people involved, which is why you should never take it on just by yourself.
Yeah.
Because it's just much, much too dangerous to try and, figure all this out on your own.
Yeah, that's not good. I was also going to bring up, in terms of brands of point shoes, I would just say try anything. You may want like some pretty Grishko or something, but if it doesn't fit you and as pretty as it is, you don't want to buy it.
And that's the other thing, you might try on 30 pairs of shoes. It might take 3 hours, and as much as I feel for the store putting that time into you, you can't just succumb to sales pressure and buy a shoe that isn't right for you just because they've taken time with you. Unfortunately, if it doesn't feel good in the store, it's not going to feel good in the classroom. And there's just nothing more frustrating than trying to make a point shoe work in class that isn't going to work. And you're like, I spent money on this, I spent time to sew the elastic and ribbons, and like you said about that pair of shoes that you got to wear for one class.
Can't take them back, but they sure do look pretty, so I just pull them out every once in a while and stare at them.
Yeah.
To think of what
make them a decoration or something. And that's the other thing. If you cannot take your teacher to the dance store to fit them with you, and you buy a pair of point shoes, now this is assuming you are getting fit, and it doesn't have to just be for your first pair of shoes. People will say you should refit your foot for a shoe every few years, because your feet can change. So if you need your teacher to look at it, then you leave the shoes in the bag. You do not pull them out. You do not vacuum in them. You do not look at them and let your cat crawl over them or anything like that. Point shoes can generally only be returned in brand new condition. And if you think about it, it makes sense, because you wouldn't want to buy a scuffed up pair of point shoes either. So your teacher will just have you, put them on the dance Marley, go up into her elevee, and if she says, he or she, that shoe is just really not right, it's not what I think you should have, you want to be able to return them. So, like new condition until you get the go-ahead.
Yeah, no sewing.
Yeah, no sewing, all of that. Like, if you have done anything to them, you won't be able to return them.
So going along with that, we all know about discount dance.
And we love it.
We love some discount dance. But if you're getting point shoes for the first time or the first couple times, we really, really recommend that you go to a store.
Or even if it's a matter of like trying a shoe that's new to you, like I've done that before. I've been like, oh, these are on sale, so maybe I'll try them. But it's like every brand, and even within a brand, sometimes the different types of shoes will have different fitting guidelines, and you're just really, if you do that, you have to be prepared to spend some money sending them back, because there's a good chance they're not going to work for you. It's just something that I've done it, I've made that mistake, I don't recommend it. If you're new to point, definitely don't recommend it. And I also don't recommend, if you do go to a dance store and they take time with you and you find a shoe that works, you might be paying more at a dance store, but don't go, okay, well maybe I'll come back later, and then go buy it from Discount Dance. Give that store your money. If they help you find the shoe for you.
I've seen stores now that will charge like a fitting fee now. You pay $25 for them to fit you, because they know you're going to go and try to buy an undiscounted dance cheaper, so they're trying to at least get a portion
it's
of
their time. Yeah, and I mean, and really, like, I have no problem with that. I mean, I would be perfectly willing to pay that fee if it meant being able to find a shoe.
If I can go to a store and I have some really good help,
and sometimes I think they waive it if you do buy the shoes or reduce it or something.
Oh, really?
Different policies might be different, but
we might ask at your store, but I think it's worth it to pay the extra money if you're gonna get really good help with your shoes. I mean, I've driven to a shop like 3 hours from here because they have such good service to get shoes.
It is a hard thing to find a good dance store.
Yeah.
So if you have one, you know, treat them well. And the same thing with, like, if you have one relatively close, then even if you order from Discount Dance, make sure you're giving them some business sometimes as well. You know, try and even it out. We love Discount Dance, but you know, your local people need your support.
Yes. Okay, so I think that covers everything. Like, that's like scratches the surface of Pointe shoes. So if you've gone into it knowing nothing, hopefully you've learned something. And if you are going to go get fitted, we hope that you can bring your teacher along. You get to go to a good store. We hope all those things. We hope you find a really good pair. If you do, let us know.
Yeah, we want to know what Pointe shoes you wear.
So if you liked this video, please give it a thumbs up right below the screen and leave a little comment below for us. We also want to know what other videos you guys want to see.
Send us some requests. And a big thank you to Ambra in Italy.
Yes.
We appreciate you.
Hi. And as usual, if you're not a fan on our Facebook page, please go over there to facebook.com/utandu.
That's right, because we are getting so many new subscribers on our YouTube page. And we are getting new subscribers on our Facebook page too, but not as many as on our YouTube page. So like us both places. We can have more dialogue. It is a good time. It's just a fun community.
So we appreciate everybody, and we will see you guys next time.
All right.
Bye. Dancers are graceful.